Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ama yɛngye yɛni ade.
Yo, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Welcome to today's lecture. So we will be starting shortly. Earlier we had about close to 200 people, but okay, I think people are still joining, so we can even start now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, that is great. Can you also see my face?
Yes, please.
No, sir.
No.
You are wearing
No,
spectacles.
sir. Please, we
You're
can't see
laughing.
you.
talking to you.
You are with
Okay.
the white shirt.
Full screen, full screen.
We can only see the screen, but it's half.
You can
Yeah,
only
that's
see
the only
the
way.
spectacles. It's only
Because
the
because I
spectacles
will be
that we are seeing.
sharing because I will be sharing some slides with you. This is what you'll be seeing.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So today we're going to look at deduction and induction, or if you like, deduction versus induction. But before we do that, let's go through our goals for today. So with this session, we are going to look at, or at the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify and construct arguments that are deductive in nature. Again, you should have a little idea about what an inductive argument is. You should be able to identify syllogisms that are written with universal negations. And you should also be familiarize yourself with syllogistic fallacies. You should also know what we mean by syllogistic fallacy if you come across one. So topic 1 will be universal affirmation, universal negations, and conditional statements. The second topic, we will look at the 4 valid syllogisms of deductive arguments. Then the third topic, we will look at sound arguments versus valid arguments. So what it means is that we will look at when we say an argument is sound, what does it mean? And when we say an argument is valid, what does it mean? So this is what we'll be doing for today. Yeah. Just before we start this, I told you last week that before we start today's class, I will just do a recap of what we did on arguments. I believe this is important to bring your minds to some of the things that you are supposed to expect as we move on with arguments, with deductive and inductive arguments. So I'll just be doing that. We said an argument is normally made up of statements used to persuade someone of something or to present reasons for accepting a conclusion. And we look at what a premise is and we look at what a conclusion is. This is, I think, the third time or so that we are talking about argument. So I believe by now you should be able to tell somebody about what an argument is. And you should be able to identify a premise when you see one in an argument. And you should be able to identify a conclusion. So we look at some premise indicators and we look at some conclusion indicators. So we look at under premise indicators, we look at because, in light of, since, given that, provided, etc. Then we looked at conclusion, hence, therefore, consequently, so, as a result, thus, then, we can conclude that, etc. So these are the indicators we looked at. Then I told you that anytime you see one of these, then your mind should be going, or your mind should be pointing to a particular direction, that perhaps what you are seeing is a premise indicator, and for that matter, what follows, the statement that follows, is a premise. So look at some examples of arguments. There's some noise coming from some background, so.
Frederick. Oh.
Okay, I think it's better now, so we can continue. So Samuel, O2, what about Samuel? I just muted everyone and you unmuted yourself again. Okay. I think we can continue. So these are some of the examples of an argument. Jesse is Samuel. Samuel again. Your microphone is disturbing us. Is it possible to even delete him or something? No. Okay, I think let's manage as we go on. So let's look at the first example, then we continue. Jesse is 1 year old. Most 1 year olds can walk. It follows that Jesse can walk. So here you'll see that the conclusion has an indicator, which means that it follows that Jesse can walk. There are many ways that you can use an indicator to indicate a conclusion. For instance, you can say thus, you can say so. Sometimes when we are writing our essays, we use words like in summary, in sum, in conclusion, to conclude. So when you make use of these words, then it means that you are talking about a conclusion. You are talking about a claim that you have given reasons to support. Let's go to our topic for today, the first topic. The first topic is universal affirmation, universal negation, and conditional statements. I want you to pay attention because what we are going to do, you need a lot of attention in order to grasp what we are doing. Then later you can go back and review it. Universal affirmation and universal negation. When we say universal affirmation, it means that you are giving a general, you are making a general proclamation, or you are confirming something generally. And when you confirm something generally, or you give a universal acclamation to something or affirmation to something, it means you use expressions like everyone, you understand? You use expressions like all, you use words like all to indicate that you are giving a universal affirmation. So they are statements in the form of all A's are B's. If I say all you GBS or all UG students are good students, that is a universal affirmation. Okay, let's continue. So all indicates universal affirmation. Example, look at example 1. All cats have claws. All cats. It means that it includes all cats in the world. We are not just talking about cats in our villages or cats in wherever we are. When we make a claim like this, it means that we are talking about everything in the universe. That is why it is a universal affirmation. You are affirming that wherever you go and whenever you see a cat, it must have claws. That is what it means, universal affirmation. The second example, all snakes are poisonous. If you say that all snakes are poisonous, you mean wherever you go or anytime you see a snake, it doesn't matter the type of snake that you've seen, that snake must be poisonous. That is universal affirmation. The same way, you can say every day it rains. In this case, you do not see all, but you see every day. So we use every to also indicate universal affirmation. Every day it rains. Every metal expands when heated. It means that anytime you see a metal, you see something that is a metal, and we heat it, it is supposed to expand. The next, look at example 5. Students cheat in exams. Students, it means once you see someone who is a student, it means that automatically the person must cheat in exams or the person cheats during exams. This is how we make universal affirmation. Now, let's look at universal negation. So we've looked at universal affirmation, how we affirm something. Now, let's look at how we deny something. When you are denying something, it means that it is the opposite of what's affirming, the opposite of affirmation. And how do we deny something? You can deny something by also putting all of them together and adding a word like no.
Sedu.
You can deny something, but the opposite of universal affirmation is universal negation. You negate something by adding no. So for instance, if you take the first example you see here, no cat has claws. It means that wherever you go in the world and you see a cat, it must not have what? Claws. So you look at the formula up there, no A's are B's, or all A's are not B's. It reflects the examples that you see below. No A's are B's, or all A's are not B's. It means that wherever you go in the world, anytime you see a cat, with example 1, the cat must not have what? Claws, because you are saying in this world, there is no cat that has claws. The second one is all cats do not have claws. All cats do not have claws. Wherever you go, it is the same thing. They must not have what? Class. The third one, no student cheats in exams. It means that all over the world, students have integrity. They do not compromise that by cheating. So students do not cheat in exams. This is how you deny something, or this is how universal negations are written. Now, let's look at conditional statements. Conditional statements. From our very own example, from our own experiences, if somebody says that I have given you a condition, it means that the person is telling you that you must accomplish something, then something will follow. So, for instance, if you tell your child that, Kwesi, do your homework. After your homework, you can watch your cartoons. It means that you have given your child a conditional statement. So we say conditional statements are written in the form, if X is an A, then X is a B. So conditional statements are written in the form if and then. If and then. Let's look at example 1. If you pay your fees, your school fees, then you'll be allowed to write the exams. If you pay your school fees, then you'll be allowed to write your exams. So the first part of the conditional statement is if you pay your school fees. Then the second part, that's what will follow from paying your school fees, is that you will be allowed to write the exams. There's a technical name for the first part of a conditional statement, and there's another name for the second part of a conditional statement. The first part of a conditional statement is called antecedent. The second part of the conditional statement is called the consequence. So the first part of a conditional statement is antecedent. So if you pay your school fees, is the antecedent. Then you will be allowed to write the exams is the consequence. Always the antecedent must occur first before the other condition or event will occur. The antecedent is supposed to occur first before the consequence occurs. All right, so you have some examples here. The antecedent condition. Let's look at the first one. You pay your school fees, then you'll be allowed to write the exams. So anytime you want to see if the statement you have is a conditional statement, ask yourself if you can put if in front of the first statement, then in the middle you insert then to see if it will make sense, to see if a condition must be satisfied before the conclusion or the consequence would follow. If Kwame is a student from UG, then he reads critical thinking and practical reasoning. So if Kwame is a student from UG, becomes the antecedent condition. He reads critical thinking. If you look at the next line, the line beside it, he reads critical thinking becomes what? The consequence. Okay, so at this moment, I want you to give me your own examples of a conditional statement. You can just put your hand up and I will call you. So Israel, can you, Israel, Malon, Emmanuel, Isuman. So let me start with Israel. Yeah, Israel.
Okay. Yeah. My first example is that if it rains, the plant will grow.
If it rains, the plant will grow. So if we insert if and then, so if it rains, then the plant will grow. That is a good example. Malon Texan.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can I hear your
If
example?
okay. If I receive my salary, I will buy a new car.
If I receive my salary, then I will buy a new car. Great. Great. Emmanuel Anaba.
Yeah.
Can I hear your example?
Yes, sir. If I have sex with you, then I'll give you your school fees.
If you do what?
If I have sex with you, then I'll give you your school fees.
So Emmanuel's example is that if I have sex with you, then I will give you your school fees. That is a conditional statement. That is a conditional. So I'm going to change the question slightly. I still see some hands up. I want to ask you to give me a universal negation, an example of a universal negation. So from the list I see here, Isuman Vincent is the first one. Isuman, if you can hear me, can you give me an example of a universal negation?
Okay. All women. Sorry. Okay. Every white man has long hairs.
So Isuman, that is universal affirmation.
Oh, sorry. Did you say negation?
Yes, I want negation. Yeah.
Okay. Not all whites have big nose.
Exactly. Thank you. Mary Ago. I hope I mentioned your name. Mary, can you give me an example of a universal negation?
Not all men are mature.
Not all men are what?
Mature.
I can hardly hear what you're saying.
Not all men are mature.
So you see, the example you've given, not all men are matured. It means that some men are matured while some are not. But we want a universal negation such that it will not include or it will not affirm some and at the same time deny some. So in this case, can you try again to see if we can get a universal negation from this very statement? So Mary said, not all men are matured. Who can turn this statement to a universal negation for me?
Let me try.
Can you try?
All men.
Arthur, do you want to try?
No man is mature.
All men are matured.
No man is matured.
So, so the answer is that no man
All
is
men
Not
are
all
not
men.
matured.
or all men are immature.
Not
Hello,
That
sir.
is universal negation.
Hello,
Please,
sir.
if you want to speak, you put your hand up. I call your name, then you speak. You
Oh,
don't have
guys,
to put your
one after the other. One after the
talk.
other. Mute your mic. One after the other.
You just mute your microphone, and I will call you because I see hands here, and I am going by those hands that I see here. If you unmute yourself, you distract the class. All right, thank you. So you see that there's a difference between universal affirmation and universal negation. All right. Now let us move on. Now we're going to look at the 4 valid syllogisms or deductive arguments. The 4 valid syllogisms or deductive arguments. So we start with a deductive argument. What is a deductive argument? So we say that a deductive argument is an argument that is valid when the conditions or interpretation that determine the premise to be true also ensure that the conclusion will be true as well. I hope this is not too technical. What we are saying is that the conditions that must determine a premise, you know what a premise is? We give premise. Premise are reasons to support a belief that we hold, a claim that we hold, and that claim is the conclusion. So the condition that must ensure that the reason we have is true or is supposed to be true must also ensure that the conclusion would be true as well. That is what we mean by a deductive argument. So if in
Please, can you go over again?
okay, sure, I'll do that. So we looked at the types of arguments. We said an argument is made up of premise or premises and a conclusion. We said that a premise is a reason that we give to support a claim, which is the conclusion. So if I tell you that there is God, it means I have given you my conclusion that there is God. Then you ask me, why do I say that there is God? Then I tell you that my grandmother died, a pastor came to the house and prayed for her, and she came back to life. That is my reason, and that becomes what? My premise. And my conclusion to this premise is that there is God. Now, in a deductive argument, we are saying that the condition please mute yourself.
Guys, so can't you mute your mic?
Hey, so
We
you
are
people are
mature
mature
students,
people.
oh.
Can't you?
We are
mature
not
students and you are doing
from
this.
what SS and enter a university.
We are
And you
not
guys are
marketing.
behaving as if
Marketing. That's
Please, you're
life
also
is this.
making noise. So you're also making noise. So keep quiet.
Okay, let's continue. If you can hear me, check if your microphone is on. So you mute it for us so you don't distract the process. This is a bit technical, so I would entreat you to pay attention here. Be checking if your microphone is on, then put it on mute so your colleagues can follow what we are doing. Thank you. Thank you very much for adhering to this. So, with a deductive argument, we are saying when the premise is taken to be true, is assumed to be true, then the condition that must also ensure the conclusion to be true will meet that, and the conclusion will be true as well. I have explained what an argument is. I have explained what a premise is, and I've explained what a conclusion is. What I am adding to this is that the conditions that must determine a premise to be true would also ensure that the conclusion will be true as well. When we look at some examples, I'm sure you'll be okay with it.
Sir, please, can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Sir, so is it always going to be this way? If the premise is true, that means the conclusion also has to be true.
Exactly. So
And
with
if the premise
deductive
is
argument,
false,
exactly. If with a deductive argument, the argument is valid when the conditions that must ensure the premise to be true also ensure that the conclusion will be true as well. The same conditions must determine that if one is not, or a condition fails to meet that, then that argument will no longer be a deductive argument. It will be an inductive argument.
okay. So deductive carries a truth bearer.
Deductive and inductive, they all carry truth bearers. If you say a truth bearer, what you are saying is that it can be true or false. A statement that can either be true or false. You understand? But with deductive arguments, yes, we are talking about validity. How an argument is valid. An argument being valid is different from the argument being true. So you can have an argument that is valid, but you will see that the premises are not true. We will get to that. So the principle that I want you to understand, what I want you to understand now is that with a deductive argument, we are talking about an argument that is valid. And what does it mean for an argument to be valid? When the conditions or the interpretation that determine the premise to be true also ensure that the conclusion will be true as well. I believe as I move to the next two slides, this should make a complete sense and understanding to you. If after that you still do not understand, just let me know. We will do that before we leave here this afternoon.
Sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Sir, please, can I ask a question?
Can you? Okay, so I'm going to take your question. Then when after her question, I would move on. Then I'll not take any other question. I'll move on to the next two slides because I think by doing that it will clarify most of the concerns that you have. So let me just listen to you. Then I'll move on.
Okay. Sir, please, when you say, can you say that a valid argument is a meaningful argument or a sensible argument?
No. It's possible for a valid argument to be meaningful. It's possible for a valid argument to be sensible. But it is not a requirement that anytime you see a valid argument, then it means that it must be meaningful. But then again, the question is, what is meaningful? Or what is sensible? So if you get there, you see that there will be a lot of problems. Yes.
Okay.
So let me continue then. I'll take the questions later.
Hello, sir.
I said I'm going to continue. I'll come back to it. So keep your question.
There are people in the lobby waiting.
No, that is such that you wait for some time, then you get in. I think it happens to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So in this topic, we look at the 4 different forms or patterns that a valid deductive argument can take. Each of the pattern is a syllogism. I'm introducing a new word, so pay attention here.
Oh, who is that?
Amos.
Would you allow me to moderate? If somebody's microphone is on, you can just keep quiet. I also hear it. So if it becomes very difficult for me to continue, I will pause. I think it is your time that it will take. So don't unmute yourself and speak. And if I see somebody's microphone is on, I will try the person's name. Then the person can help. Can help by putting off. Christabel, can you check your microphone?
It's as if some are not even listening, or they are just doing their own thing. I'm not sure they are in the class actually.
Sir, please, can you disable our mic?
Yeah, I keep doing it, but it doesn't allow me. Okay, I think it has worked now. Christabel, check
Christabel
your
is still not
microphone
disabled
for us, please. I keep putting you on mute, then you unmute yourself again. Okay. So let's continue. I just introduced the word syllogism. That is a new word that you are hearing for the first time in this class. What is
Hello, sir. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Papa. Hey.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
because she was not listening. She's now asking questions. You can imagine.
Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Please. Yeah, sir. Please. I was somewhere at the 4 main syllogisms, which is the deductive argument. That's where I got to before my network went off. So I want
Sister,
to know
you're
if
making noise, so keep quiet. Let's enjoy our class.
Can you? I thought we were all mature students, mature applicants. Let's let there be tolerance. At least I am the one moderating the class. If somebody is saying something, allow the person to speak. If I think I would wait for the person to speak later on, I will do that. I will ask the person to hold on. Then when I continue, then we will come back to it. But you cannot just come in from time to time and interact, like disturb the class. You can't do that. It is not nice. So if I get the consent of the one who just spoke, you want me to, your network was bad, but you see, I will go back quickly because I think the other person whose microphone was on disturbed that. Apart from that, I would have continued, then maybe later we come back to it because you need to position yourself well so that you get a good network. That is your responsibility. Yes. So let me quickly take that again, then we move on. I was talking about deductive arguments, and I'm saying that deductive arguments, so anytime you see a deductive argument, it means that that argument must be valid. That argument is supposed to be valid. And that's the conditions that must ensure the premises of the argument to be true must also ensure that the conclusion of that argument is true. In inductive argument, the opposite is that you must have reason to believe that the conclusion is likely to be true. That is the difference between inductive and deductive arguments. So let me give an example. Let me ask something here. If your husband or your boyfriend comes home with a lipstick in his shirt, if your boyfriend comes home or your husband comes home with a lipstick in his shirt, does it give you the conclusion that your husband or your boyfriend is a cheat? If you have an answer, just put your hand up. I will call you. Atta, I see your hand up. Okay, let me listen to Theophilus.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Theophilus.
Per your question, it might be that when the man was boarding a car, the lady might, touch him with the lips accidentally.
Okay, so you are saying that the lipstick in the shirt does not give us enough justification for us to conclude that the man is cheating, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So if you have a situation like this, the argument you have for claiming that your husband or your boyfriend is cheating with the reasons you have is inductive, because there is a reason, there is enough justification for us to also think that it could have been a mistake. So the reasons, the premises that must ensure the conclusion to be true, in this case, the premise could also be false. So when you have a situation like that, then it means that you have an inductive argument. But with deductive arguments, when the premises are true, the conclusion must automatically be true. So mostly we encounter arguments like that. That's today, my husband came home at 11 p.m. Last 3 weeks, he went on a trek, and around 11 p.m. when I called him, so I want you to listen to me carefully. Then you tell me if what I'm saying, the arguments that I'm giving, is inductive or deductive arguments with the explanations that I've given. So my conclusion is that the man is cheating. I'm going to give you the reasons why I think that the man is cheating. So listen to the reasons carefully and tell me if you think that is a deductive argument or an inductive argument. So today, my husband came home smelling a woman's perfume. Last 2 days, I called him around 11 p.m. and it was a woman who picked the phone. I was so sad. When he came home, he did not say anything to me. He went straight to sleep. 3 weeks ago, I came home and I met him with a lady in her room. I asked him about the lady. He never said anything to me. Today, he is back again and he has lipstick all over his shirt. So my conclusion is that my husband is cheating. Is this an inductive argument or a deductive argument? Benjamin, I see that your hand is up. Do you want to speak?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Benjamin, go ahead.
I think it's a deductive.
You think is this what?
It's a deductive argument because when you
You
look at
think
all
it's a
the premises,
deductive
they are
argument?
true. Yes, please.
Okay. Why do you say so?
Because when you look at all the premises, they are true. So the conclusion may be true that the man is cheating on the woman, because looking at all the premises, all of them true, and the conclusion also is true. So I think it's a deductive argument.
Okay. Can I listen to a different? I think I see another. Erajua, I see your hand up.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The conditions can say that because there are things of lipstick or the perfume of a lady smelling in the shirt of the husband, it means that he's cheating. It could be that he had a board meeting, a lady hugged him, he was just mingling, just trying to socialize. And the lipstick stained the shirt. So it's
So you
inductive,
think
it's not
it
deductive.
is okay? You think it's inductive?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer will be the last person. Then I will come in. Jennifer.
Sir,
Yes. What do you think?
I think it's deductive.
Why are you saying that?
Because the premise and the conclusion are all true.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution. Yeah. Benjamin, can you check your microphone for me? I think it is still on. Yeah. So thank you for the contributions. And I would like to ask, so ask yourselves, is it possible that Francesca, can you mute yourself? Okay. So you ask yourself, despite all the reasons that have been given, is it possible that your conclusion could be false? When Benjamin was speaking, he said maybe. So that maybe implies that it is possible that the conclusion is even false. It doesn't matter how forceful the premises are, because that is how inductive arguments are. Inductive arguments are supposed to lead you to assume that a conclusion is true. But when you look at all the reasons, it is entirely possible that the conclusion is false. Hence, the argument is an inductive argument. It is possible that he came home with a lipstick in his shirt. It is possible that he's been coming home very late. It is possible that when you call, a woman picks the call, but the conclusion that he is cheating does not validly follow from the premises that you have. It is just an inductive argument. That is why it gets to a point, then somebody, I thought he was cheating. You should have explained it to me. You should have done this, you should have done that. Then perhaps the problem has already been caused. Now, We are saying that there are 4 different forms or patterns that a valid argument can take. So deductive arguments are valid arguments. They must be valid. They must be valid because once we assume the premises to be true, the conclusion must automatically be true. What is a syllogism? A syllogism is a deductive argument with 2 premises, a major premise, a minor premise, and a conclusion. I told you that you can have an argument with just 1 premise. You can have an argument with about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as many premises as you want. But the conclusion must always be what? 1. So when we talk about a syllogism, we are talking about a deductive argument with 2 premises. Let's look at the first example. All birds can fly. That is your first statement. All birds can fly. It is a statement because it can be true or false. The second one is your minor premise. This parrot is a bird. Then you conclude. So this parrot can fly. All birds can fly. If Kofi is a bird, then it means that Kofi must also do what? Fly. This is a deductive argument. In arguments, we assume that the premises are true. Then look at the logical structure or the form of the argument. So if we assume that all the premises are true, all birds can fly, then the next premise, this parrot is a bird, it means that it follows from the first one. Then automatically, this parrot can fly. Let's look at the second example. All living things breathe oxygen. All living things. So you see that all living things is what? All is a universal affirmation. Breathe oxygen. That is our major premise. So anything that breathes oxygen will die. So it means that all living things will die. There are 4 types of syllogisms. There are 4 types of syllogisms. Before we look at the 4 types, I want us to look at syllogisms again. I have given you 2 examples. I want someone to give me a syllogism, an example of a syllogism. So I want to, maybe the first 2 people that will speak, or the first 4, at least I want one to give me one that has a universal affirmation and one that also has universal negation.
So please, can I ask a question before?
Okay, go ahead. Let me listen to your question. After your question, Irajua, I see your hand up. Asari Naomi, I see your hand up. So prepare to give me something if you want to speak. Frank Asari too, I see your hand up. Then Christine Ado. Yeah. So you can speak. Go ahead and speak. I'm listening.
Okay, so can we say a syllogism is a 3-line argument?
What if I don't write my argument in 3 lines? So obviously there will be a problem with your definition.
Okay, then so why then are we limiting syllogism to deductive arguments? Can syllogism won't syllogism also be in the form of inductive?
No. When we say a syllogism, when we say something is deductive, it means the thing must be what? Valid. In inductive arguments, the arguments are not valid.
Are not valid, sure.
So if they are not valid, then they can't be part of syllogisms.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the two people, yeah.
Hello, sir.
Erajua, yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yes, sir.
yes,
Okay,
Christine,
so
you mentioned me.
I mentioned who? Who is speaking?
Hello, sir, Christine. Christine. Hey.
Christine, if I mentioned you, I think because your microphone was on.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, who is speaking now?
Ernestina.
Is your hand up?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead, Ernestina.
Hello, sir.
Okay. My
Elijah.
example is all unmarried men are bachelors. Kofi
Oh.
is an unmarried man. Therefore, Kofi is a bachelor.
Yes, that is a good one.
Thank you.
That is a universal affirmation. Any other example?
Sir, Naomi.
Hello.
Yeah, Naomi,
Sir,
go ahead.
Naomi.
Your hand is up. Naomi, go ahead.
All boys are brave. Solomon is a boy. Are brave.
Are brave. Okay.
Solomon is a boy, so Solomon is brave.
Okay.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Opoku. Jennifer.
Hey.
Yes, let me listen to you.
All headmasters are disciplinarians. Mr. Lomoto is a headmaster. So Mr. Lomoto is a disciplinarian.
Great. So the next example, I want you to give me the people that I'll be calling. I want you to give me examples of universal negation in syllogistic nature. Francesca, can you try?
Hello. Yes. All Ghanaian men are not. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Hello, sir. All Ghanaian men are not hardworking.
Okay.
Kwame is a Ghanaian. Therefore, Kwame is not hardworking.
Great. Christine, Ado, can you give me one?
Yes, sir. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So my example is all females are intelligent. Mommy is a female, therefore mommy is intelligent.
Okay, thank you. That is universal affirmation. I want,
yes, sir.
So the people that I'll be calling, I want you to give me universal negation, if you can try.
All
Hadi
married
Ibrahim.
women are not faithful.
Hello,
Hadi
sir, let me try.
Ibrahim. Hadi. Okay, so if Hadi cannot hear me, Rashida Abdullahi, can you try? Okay, let me listen to Richard.
Yes, sir. Not all married women are faithful.
Not all married women
are faithful. Ajua is a married woman, therefore she's not faithful.
No, you see, there's a problem with your example. You said not all married women. It means that some married women are faithful, and therefore your conclusion could be true or false. So that makes your conclusion, or that makes your argument an inductive argument.
Inductive, yeah.
Yeah, so I want you to give me an example that will be deductive using universal negation. So
So if you want to use
try
it,
again, Richard?
we just put this one up.
I want to try, Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
Our hand is up.
All bank managers in Ghana are industrious. Mr. Ajiman is not industrious. Hence, Mr. Ajiman is not a bank manager.
Can you repeat that again?
All bank managers in Ghana are industrious. Mr. Ajiman is not industrious. Hence, Mr. Ajiman is not a bank manager.
That is also not so with the universal negation, you have
Guys, Debbie, can I try?
Hello, sir. Can I try?
Hello, can you just put your hand up and allow me? Don't unmute yourself then say, can you try? Can you try? I'm just following the hands so we can have a structured conversation. Yeah, thank you. So with universal negation, you are denying something in a universal way, and that becomes your major premise. The next one must follow from what you have denied. Then you have a conclusion. Esuman, Vincent.
Okay, sir. I was trying to correct it, but let me read it. All cars are not black. Toyota is a car, so Toyota is not black.
Okay. That is fine. Okay, so let's continue. So the rest of you, I will take your contribution as we move on. I'll make sure those who have spoken, I will not call them next time because we have to continue. So we will be looking at the 4 types of syllogisms. The 4 types of syllogisms. What it means is that any of these syllogisms, they must be valid. The first one is what we call modus ponens. Modus ponens. The second one, modus tollens. The third one, hypothetical syllogism. And the fourth one, disjunctive syllogism. So if you take any of the 4 valid syllogisms, they must be one of these if you are given an example. And they are valid. The conclusions are valid if you follow this format, if you follow this formula for any of them. The first one is what we call modus ponens. Modus ponens is a Latin word. It means the mode of affirming the antecedent. You remember what an antecedent is? The mode of affirming the antecedent. We said that in a conditional statement, you have 2 parts. We said that in a conditional statement, you have 2 parts. The first part is what we call antecedent. And the second part is what we call consequent. So let's look at the first example. All B's are F's. All B's are F's. All B's are F's. So the first part, B's, is the antecedent. And the F is the consequent. So when you come to the example 2, if you work hard, then you will be rich. If you work hard, then you will be rich. Now, the first part is the antecedent, and the second part is what? The consequence. What do we mean when we say we are affirming the antecedent? Let's look at this slide. You have, so I want you to pay attention to the example B. Example B. When you see P to kill, or when you see anything, we just use any of the numbers or any of the variables, the letters, to represent a statement. So you can, somebody can decide to use A to B, but normally we start from P, Q, R, S, T. We've been using this and it has become something like a normal thing for all logicians. So it doesn't matter if you want to also use A to B, but it is better to stick to the normal one so you don't cause confusion among yourself, because when you look at other books too, they are more like consistent with the old system. Frank Asari, can you mute yourself? Esuman, can you mute yourself?
Maybe, yeah.
Is it easy? Can you mute yourself? Leila, Leila, mute yourself. Leila. All right, let's continue. So if you see any arguments like this form, P condition Q, P condition Q, first, it means that the argument is a conditional statement. And in the conditional statement, I said we have two parts, the antecedent and the consequence. Now, modus ponens is what? Affirming the antecedent. I'm still on the B, so look at the B. Modus ponens is affirming the antecedent. How do we affirm the antecedent? By just repeating the antecedent in the next line. P, if Alison vacations in Paris, then she will have to win a scholarship. If Alison vacations in Paris, then she would have to win a scholarship. By affirming the antecedent, we are saying that, yes, she went to vacation in Paris. That is it. That is the P. So if she went to vacation in Paris, then automatically the conclusion be what? Then she won a scholarship. When you see the 3 dots, it means a conclusion. So the formula for modus ponens is P condition Q. That is if you are using P. Then P, then your conclusion, Q. Let's look at another example. I think. So when you look at this example here, if you work hard, then you will be rich. So you see here too, we use H then R. If you work hard, then you'll be rich. Now, we are saying that Mr. Ezra works hard. So he worked hard. He's H. If he worked hard, then what will be our conclusion? He is rich, or he will be rich. Is there any way this conclusion can be false? If you think there's any way this conclusion can be false, just put your hand up. Enoch Gato, your microphone is on. Can you mute yourself? And I see that your hand is also up. Maybe before you mute yourself, if you have a response to my question, you can answer that. Okay, Anastasia Enoch. Yes. Let me hear you.
My hand was actually up during the time you were asking for the examples. But to
Okay,
this
so
one, I'm hello.
yeah, go ahead.
There is this example. I'm not sure there is any two ways about it.
Okay, thank you. But if any of you, your hand has been up for some time and you don't have a response, I think it's better to take your hand off so that I can look at those whose hand are up, because I was just going through so that those who have not spoken will speak. Yeah, so Theophilus Aaron, if you wish to respond, you think there is any way that this can be wrong, just let me know.
So the first one, that is all birds can fly. This is a bird, so it can fly. That is birds like penguins. They are birds, but they don't fly. So in a way, the first one can be false.
Okay. So it's good that you've brought this up. What I want you to understand is that in the argument, in the pattern, we assume the premises to be true. Whether in real life they are true or false, it is not an issue here. We are just looking at the structure of the argument to see that it is valid. So from what we have here, the first premise, if we assume that all birds can fly, and Kweku is a bird, so it means that Kweku can also what? Fly. That is what we are interested in. And it is a valid argument. I intentionally changed that to Kweku so that you understand, you appreciate the point I'm trying to make. We are looking at the pattern of the argument. So we say that let's assume that the premises are what? True. I'm sure by the time we are done with this class, your confusions would have been clarified, because validity is different from what we call soundness, which we'll be doing at the end. So the argument is valid. Now, when you change the pattern of modus ponens, it means that you've committed a fallacy. And that fallacy is called the fallacy of affirming the consequent. So the incorrect pattern of modus ponens is the fallacy of affirming the consequent. Now, this is a fallacy because you have changed the pattern of a correct, valid deductive argument. Because you have changed that, the conclusion cannot follow for the argument to be deductive. And that fallacy is a formal fallacy. A formal fallacy in the sense of formal, like formal. Why formal? Because these arguments are written in a standard form such that the formula they use, if you break the formula, it means that you violated any of the formal arguments. So when you break any of the rules of syllogisms, it means that you have committed a formal fallacy. So depending on the type of rule that you've broken, it could be fallacy of affirming the consequence. The correct formula is to affirm what? The antecedent. But in affirming the antecedent, you make a mistake and you affirm the consequence. Once you affirm the consequence, it means that it is false. Let's look at the structure. All B's are F's. All B's are F's. The correct pattern is that this is an B or this is a B. This is a B. That is the correct pattern. But the wrong pattern, you've rather gone to affirm what? The consequence, which is F. So this is an F. If you affirm the consequence, there will be a problem with the conclusion. Let's read the second example. Can somebody read the second example for us? Let me see your hand up, then I will call someone to read it for us. So I'm looking for, okay, Al-Hassan Salifu. Jennifer Opoku.
Sir, hello.
Yeah, okay, Al-Hassan. Okay. Okay, let me listen to Al-Hassan. Jennifer, I'll come back to you. Al-Hassan, can you read the second example for us?
If you work hard, you will be rich. Miss Paulina is rich. That she works hard.
So when you look at this, if you work hard, then you will be rich. Now, instead of affirming the antecedent, we went on to affirm what? The consequence. It means that you will be rich. The consequence has been affirmed. Paulina is rich. If Paulina is rich, it does not follow that Paulina worked hard. So this is not a valid argument. Do you get my point? If someone is in confusion here, you can just let me know. If you work hard, this is the argument. This is the condition we've put up. If you work hard, then you will be rich. If you work hard, then you will be rich. Now, it means that if you satisfy the antecedent, then the conclusion will follow or the consequence will follow. You have not satisfied the antecedents, yet you've met the conclusion. Once you've met the conclusion, it does not mean that you followed the right channel. It could be that she used many ways to be rich. So note that when the pattern changes, the argument will no longer be what? Valid. The next one I want us to look at is what we call modus tollens. Modus tollens.
No, people will be around 7.
Enoch, your microphone is on. Enoch, mute yourself.
Oh, it's Nicholas.
Oh.
I don't know why.
That's why.
So if you can hear me, check if your microphone is on and mute yourself. That is if you want to be part of us. If you don't want to be part of us, you can just leave. Then we can have our meeting. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is what we call modus tollens. Modus tollens. So like I said, this is also the mode of denying the consequence. The mode of denying the consequence. So if we are going to deny the consequence, and we assume that, look at the image beside it, we assume that our arguments, our conditional statements are written in P to Q, and we are denying. Okay. Nicholas, if you can hear me, mute yourself, Nicholas. Nicholas, if you don't want to be part of the class, please, you can leave. Nicholas, if you can hear me, Nicholas, if you can hear me, mute yourself. All right.
All of us so that he also can be muted.
Yes,
Somebody is okay. Okay, so let's continue. I don't know why I was able to mute everyone earlier, but I'm trying to do it, and the feedback I'm getting is that I cannot change the audio capability for attendees now. I don't know.
Is it possible you can remove him out of the class?
It is not possible.
Yes, take him out.
If
It's the
you can,
network.
just
The
take
person
him out.
aware.
I'm sure he has joined, but
He
he's not aware.
It's not possible.
Oh, yeah, he's somewhere away from the phone.
Hello, sir. Please, I think it's because you are not the host. So if you can ask the host to mute everybody, then you can have
Okay, I think I have to do that now. I will do that.
This man is wasting our time.
So I think we can just take
I wanted to ask a question.
First, I do this.
Sir, please answer to ask the question.
Say this one, if you can remove them from the page, because some of us the feedback coming is too loud, we can't even concentrate.
Okay, if you can hear me, I think in the next 1 minute or 2 minutes, that will be. Let's relax for just 1 or 2 minutes, and we'll continue.
With this particular slide you are using, can we get it in our Sakai? Because the one I downloaded was the old one.
The coordinator is the one who shares the slides. So what I did was I just modified my slide. So I would ask her if I can share with you, but you have a recording of this presentation. So it's being recorded. So if you can go back to it later on and watch, I'm sure you can follow everything we are doing today. I try to make it very simple so that you'll be able to understand.
Okay, I'll be glad if I can get this.
Please, you have muted yourself.
So the one on Sakai is not the one you are using, eh?
I think it's a bit.
Yes, I just added some few things to that one. So
we can still use what's on the slides.
Yes, that is what you need. That is the approach.
Please, who is sleeping? Because you could hear someone snoring.
Oh, okay.
It's Nicholas. It's Nicholas who is disturbing us.
It's serious. The person is snoring. The feedback is very loud that some of us we can't hear anything. Why do you have to log in and be sleeping? Whilst you can't make a class?
I'm very surprised that mature student. Hey, serious issue.
Before we started, I made the announcement that at least everyone should mute the mic.
I'm shocked.
I'm very surprised. Charlie, we have few weeks or days to the exams, and then see what some of you are doing. Me cry, I don't know.
This thing, you mute your mic. If the need arises for you to talk, then you unmute and you speak. That's all.
It's not about maturity.
I don't think he's aware. He's not aware.
So if he's not aware, then who logged in? Who logged in?
Okay. No, the thing is, if you know you don't have time or where you are is very distractive that you can't make the class, you just stop. Rather than joining and now we spend more than 5 minutes.
Keep quiet because the recording is still.
Chairman, don't say that. Don't say that. They are not aware. They are aware. They are intentionally doing that. Some of them, I think they are doing it for fun. I don't know. They are aware. So are you telling me that when you don't know that you unmute yourself? Eh? Some of them they are doing it.
Let the lecture decide for us.
Please,
what time
is
the class ending?
Should we leave the class?
They are recording, please.
Is it possible
Now
the
we
lecture
left
closes the
only
class?
Aren't we making noise more than the person snoring?
Please, can you keep quiet?
Is it possible the lecture?
The distraction is going to worry us. If you want to go back to what we are doing to just keep quiet. I've asked the lecturer the organizer to join, and he's joining, and he will meet everyone. So let's just hold on. You can just be thinking about
the class ending.
You can just be thinking about what we've been discussing. Then we take it from there. It is a 2-hour class. We started at 4. We will end at. We started according to my time is 4. So we started at 2. We will end at 4. I think it's better now. So let me continue. Yeah, so I was talking about modus tollens. the mode of denying the consequence. Now, when you look at P and Q, you look at P and Q. P is what? The antecedent, and Q is the consequence. How do you deny the consequence? By just putting a negative sign by it. If you put a negative sign by it, then it means you have denied the consequence. If you deny the consequence, it means that obviously the antecedent would not also work. So let's look at the second example here. If you work hard, then you will be rich. If you work hard, then you will be rich. If H, then R. Now, we are saying that Paulina is not rich. Paulina is not rich. So she is not what? R. If she is based on what we said, it means that then she did not work hard. She did not work hard. If you work hard, then you will be rich. You did not work hard. Sorry, you are not rich, so you did not work hard. This is what we are saying. And this is the correct pattern for modus tollens.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
So please, can you go over the formula? You said P. You said that P affirms then something.
I'm now talking about modus tollens. The formula for modus tollens is P condition Q, what you see on your screen here. Not Q, because tollens is denying the consequence, and Q is the consequence. Not Q, so not P. That is the formula for modus tollens.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
So let me finish with this, then you come in. With the next one, if you make a mistake with this pattern, it means that you've committed a fallacy, incorrect modus tollens. So instead of denying the consequence, you deny the antecedent. So let's look at that. Let's look at the second example here. If you work hard, then you will be rich. So we are using the incorrect pattern. We've changed the correct pattern to incorrect. So once we've changed that, it means that it is a fallacy. We have committed a formal fallacy, and the name of that fallacy is what? Denying the antecedent. As you can see in the brackets here on top, denying the antecedent. How do you deny the antecedent? We are saying you have a conditional statement. Conditional statements are made of antecedents and consequence. Now, for your second premise, instead of denying the consequence, as the rule says, you rather deny the antecedent. So if you work hard, then you'll be rich. Paulina does not work hard. Thus, she is not rich. It's he, but it's supposed to be she. She is not rich. So when you look at the example here, if H, then R. She is not H, thus she is not R. This is the incorrect pattern. Look at the example. All B's are F's. This is not B. It is not F. Birds can fly. This animal is not a bird. So this animal can fly. The problem is that you can see one animal that is not a bird yet fly. Nicholas, mute yourself for us. Okay, I think yes, I think it's now okay now. So all birds can fly. Let me take that first example again. This animal is not a bird, so this animal cannot fly. This argument will cease to be valid because you have changed the pattern for modus tollens. So the mode of denying the consequence, in this case, you are no longer denying the consequence, but rather you are denying the antecedent. Hence, the argument will cease to be valid. I wish that I continue, then you ask your questions later, because now we have everything up. There are no disturbances, so I want to take the opportunity to finish. Note your questions, then I will come back to it. Because as soon as I start opening the microphone again, people are likely to cause some distraction. So let me take the next two, then I will come back again. The next one I want to talk about is what we refer to as hypothetical syllogism. Hypothetical syllogism. The formula for hypothetical syllogism is if P, then Q. If Q, then R. Therefore, if P, then R. So if you look at the first example here, all P's are Q's. So let's assume all P's are Q's. It's represented by all birds can fly. Then the next one is all flying animals lay eggs. So it means that all birds lay eggs. Hypothetical syllogism. It's like saying that if you are the mother of Amma, and Amma is the mother of Kweku, it means that you are the grandmother of what? Kweku. Hypothetical syllogism. Look at the second example. If you cheat, then you will be sacked. If you see P1, the P1 here is representing premise 1. P2 represents premise 2. Then your conclusion. So if you cheat, you will be sacked. You are sacked. If you are sacked, then you won't graduate. So obviously it means that if you cheat, you won't graduate. This is the correct pattern of hypothetical syllogism. If you change the pattern, this will cease to be valid. If you change the pattern, this will cease to be valid. So for instance, let's look at the incorrect hypothetical syllogism pattern. All bees are Fs. So let's look at this. All birds can fly. All egg-laying animals can fly. Then you go like all birds are all egg-laying animals. It does not follow logically. I hope you see the problem with this. It will cease to be what? Valid. The second example, if you cheat, then you will be sacked. If you don't graduate, then you are sacked. So if you cheat, then you don't graduate. It is also not valid. It is incorrect hypothetical syllogism. This is also a formal fallacy, the third formal fallacy. The next one, the next logical rule is what we call disjunctive syllogism. Disjunctive syllogism. So disjunctive syllogism is written in either A or B. Either A or B. Either A is true or B is true. It is not A, so it is B. Either A or B. So this is how it is. The disjunctive sign is V. Is V. So P or Q. It reads or, either or. So either P or Q. So if you say not P, it means that what? It is Q. Either you go to school or you stay home. You stayed home. So it means that what? You are not in school. That is what it means here. So when you look at example 1, it is either I took the book to the library or it is in my room. Now you say that I cannot find the book in the library. So if you cannot find the book in the library, then it means what? The book is in your room. So you need to observe that anytime the second premise, in the second premise, you will deny one of the alternatives. And when the alternatives is denied, the other one will stand. Okay, now let me take your questions on this before we look at the last one. Or I can quickly also look at the last one. The last one is simple. So we can look at this. This is a bit complicated. So let me, maybe the last one will also help you to appreciate what we've been doing, what I said about deductive and inductive earlier. The last one is what we call sound arguments. You know, it is very possible to have an argument that is valid, but that argument, the premises of that argument may not be true in real life. So we introduce the term soundness. Soundness to place emphasis on the premises, whether the premises are true. So what we mean by an argument being sound is that the premises of the argument is true in real life. That indeed premise A is true. Indeed premise B is true. Then the conclusion will be true. Then we can say that that argument is sound. So if you look at the first example, all fish live in water. You know that this is a true statement. Tilapia is a fish. You know that this is also true. But if I should change this to say that kweku is a fish, you know that kweku is not a fish. So in that case, that argument will not be sound, even though it will be valid. But what we have here, the two premises are true. So if they are true, the conclusion will automatically follow. So they are valid and they are sound. This is a sound argument. So if you look at it carefully, soundness has to do with what? Valid arguments. Deductive arguments, valid arguments. Let me look at this example. Look at this example here. The third one, all birds can fly. Is it the case that all birds can fly? It is false. Not all birds are able to fly. So this is false. Superman is a bird. This is also false. Therefore, Superman can fly. This argument is valid, yet it is not sound. because the premises are not true in real life, but it is a valid deductive argument. Who can tell me the type of syllogism this third argument is? You can just put your hand up. Emmanuel Michael Mensah, I see your hand up. You want to talk?
Oh, sir, it was up for the first, I think the first question. So let me know.
Jennifer, I see your hand up too.
Hand is up.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask a question.
No, I'm asking if you have a response to what I'm asking now. I think if you don't have a response, you can lower your hand. When I move on, then you put your hand again, because I want somebody to.
Hello, sir. I'm Ebenezer.
Sir, please let me try.
No. I'm calling those whose hands are up. So.
Sir, Ebenezer's hand is up.
Atta, do you have a response? Anastasia Elon, do you have a response?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir. Please, I have a response.
Okay. What type of arguments
in my opinion, this argument will fall under modus ponens, which is affirming the antecedent, but it is not sound.
Yes, you are right. Thank you. Now, note that all sound arguments are valid, but not all valid arguments are sound. This is an example. So let's go back to the syllogisms where you had some concerns. If you have any question, just put your hand up. I'll be following the order, and I'll be giving priority to those who are putting their hands up for the first time. So, Anastasia Elom, I see that your hand is up. Anastasia,
Yes, sir.
Anastasia, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Oh, I just answered the question not long ago.
So when you finish, you can just lower your hand, okay? When you finish answering, you can just lower your hand. Kusi, promising. Kusi, do you have something to say? If you are not speaking, just mute yourself. I see that a lot of you have unmuted yourself already.
Yeah, please, what was your question?
I'm asking you if you have any question. You can ask now.
Oh, okay. No.
Okay, my hands have been up.
Jennifer, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, yes, sir. Please, I wanted to know if all invalid arguments are unsound.
All invalid arguments are unsound. So you are asking if all inductive arguments are unsound.
Yes.
So soundness has to do with deductive arguments. And we say that with inductive arguments, we cannot apply it there. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So let's look at an example of a sound argument, because when we talk about soundness, first the argument must be valid before we look at whether the argument is sound or not. So if the argument is invalid in the first place, then the issue about soundness will not even come in mind. And when we talk about inductive arguments, basically inductive arguments can be true or false. The conclusions of an inductive argument can either be true or false. But with deductive argument, once we assume the premises are true, then automatically the conclusion must also be what? True.
Okay.
Hello, sir. This is Kusi from.
Yeah, Kusi.
I have a question. The antecedent, you said if, then the then should
Can
be
you
the
speak up?
consequent.
I can hardly hear you.
It's about the antecedent.
Mm-hmm.
You made an example that if you pay your school fees, then you will write the exams. And you said the if is the antecedent, and you write the exams is the consequence.
So if
I'm
you
saying
pay
that
your school fees is the antecedent.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if you turn the question around, for example, you will write the exams if you pay your school fees. Can you say when you turn the question around, can the other one be the antecedent?
So you want to say that can the consequence be first?
Yes.
It's possible.
But if the consequence is first, so but it still maintains the same pattern.
Which pattern?
Like the if is still the antecedent.
So for instance, if I tell you that you will be rich if you work hard.
Yeah.
You will be rich if you work hard. So if I say you will be rich if you work hard, the consequence is that you will be rich.
Okay.
And the antecedent, what will make you rich is that you have to work hard.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. This is Frederick.
Frederick, is your hand up?
Yes, sir. I've raised my hand a long time, but you've not called me.
Oh, then go ahead because I do not see it here.
Yes, sir.
Me too.
Frederick,
sir, please. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
When you look at the pattern for the hypothetical syllogism,
okay.
Is there any difference between the hypothetical syllogism and the conditional statement? Because it seems like the conditional statement, the pattern goes like the way hypothetical syllogism is.
If you look at all the things we're doing, all the syllogism that we've done so far, they are all written in conditional forms. So they are all made, the statements are all conditional statements. The formula for all of them are different, but they are conditional statements. So let's take the first one. If all birds can fly, it means if you are a bird, then you should be able to what? To fly. That is a conditional statement. But when you look at the second premise, we've introduced another thing different from the variables that are in the first premise. So in the first premise, you have just P and Q. Now, in the second premise, we've introduced another variable, which is R. All flying animals lay eggs. That is another thing. Lay eggs, the R. So to have a pattern, a logical pattern with all these three variables, they must be written in a particular way. And to follow that logically, validly, you have to follow the rule of hypothetical syllogism. I think when you spoke, another lady spoke too. The lady.
Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, Ruth. Yes, I want to know if antecedent and premises. Like, what's the difference between premises and antecedent?
What is the difference between a premise and an antecedent?
Yes.
So we said in arguments are made up of what? Premises and conclusion. A premise is the reason you give to support a conclusion. If you look at what you see on your screen here, you are looking at the formula for hypothetical syllogism. Now, we are saying that with syllogisms, you will need, or with arguments, sometimes you will need what? Conditional statements. In a conditional statement, there are two parts to a conditional statement. Not all statements are conditional. But in conditional statements, there are two parts. Now, the first part of a conditional statement is what we call an antecedent. That antecedent, or that which forms part of the first premise, also has a consequence. So the conditional statement can be a premise. A conditional statement can be a premise leading to a conclusion which can also be a conditional statement. Premise are the reasons you give to support a claim, a belief that you have, to support a conclusion. Conditional statements can also act as premises based on the logical patterns that they are following. So if you look at example 1, all pigs are killed. It is a conditional statement. At the same time, it is a premise. But the first part of that conditional statement, P, is what we refer to as antecedent. The second part of the conditional statement, Q, is what we refer to as what? A consequence. I hope this helps. If it doesn't,
yes,
you can still ask. So I find
See,
out.
I want to give one example of hypothetical syllogism.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have it here. Women are compassionate. Compassionate people are generous. So therefore, women are generous. Is it right?
It's right. You are right.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you too for that example. Richard, did I see your hand up?
I need to check now.
I was the one who spoke right now.
Oh, okay, okay. Any other question? I see somebody's hand up, but I can't see the person. I see a hand up, but I do not. Okay. I see Anastasia Elom. I see that your hand is up. Anastasia, if you have something to say, you can go ahead.
Hey, you were about sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were about explaining, and then Eric just.
Theophilus Aaron.
Hello, sir.
Please check your microphone. You are disturbing us. Okay, so
Anastasia here.
okay, Anastasia, go ahead.
But please, I want to know whether the argument will always take this.
Anastasia, come again. Somebody is disturbing. Come again.
I wanted to know whether the argument will always take this form. Like, will there be a case where we'll meet argument in an essay form that we would have to find the right conclusion or maybe indicate the premise and the conclusion of an argument which is in an essay form?
Yes, I think maybe after this class, I will put one of the past questions on the page for you guys to look at how, and specifically pay attention to how questions are asked on arguments. So if we accept that
answer by fire this prayer.
So why is somebody disturbing us?
Hey, Jesus Christ.
Oh, who's that?
If only you worship God. Oh.
That's concentrate.
So I was saying that I'll put a past question on the page. Then I want you to pay attention. So for instance, if you look at what you can see on your screens, the hypothetical syllogism, we can put a question like, all P's are Q's. All Q's are R's. Then ask you to determine the conclusion. Then write the type of syllogism this argument is. Or if we don't put it like that, we can say that all birds can fly. All flying animals lay eggs. Then we will ask you to write the pattern, the correct pattern of hypotheticals, the conclusion that is likely to follow from this argument. Then state which argument it is, and even state if that argument is sound or not. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
So you need to know the formula. You need to know all these arguments, and especially the formula. Once you know the formula and you look at the pattern, you look at the sentences, you should be able to translate them into this kind of formulas. Then you'll be able to determine which type of syllogism you are dealing with. Okay. So thank you very much. I think this will be my last meeting with you. Dr. Annie will continue with you next week. So it's been good having all of you, and I wish you the best. I would try and put some questions on the page for you. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, can we get your contact?
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
please, will it be on Sakai?
Sir, what page are you talking about?
The WhatsApp page.
Is it the general one or group?
I see a lot of hands up.
Yeah, the WhatsApp page. It's the WhatsApp
Sir,
page.
please, we want to know where you put the past person.
Oh, I beg you. Do you have critical? No. Do you have critical thinking WhatsApp page?
No.
Yes, we have the
It's a Telegram
general.
page.
Yeah, if you are part of